I'm so looking forward to Stacy talking tonight. I actually took a trip out to the Pacific Northwest a couple years ago that Julie booked with my family, and we had a blast. It's so beautiful out there if you haven't seen it before. We actually went and flew into Seattle, spent a couple days, took a ferry up to Victoria on Vancouver Island, and spent another couple days there. Such a beautiful city. It had Victorian architecture, museums, lots of green spaces. We went actually right outside of Victoria to Butchart Gardens, which I mean, I love gardens. It was 50 something acres of just amazing gardens. I highly recommend it. And then went on up to some windy roads, but well worth it, to Tofino off the western coast of Vancouver Island, which is a little peninsula. Again, just beautiful views. I mean, everything out there is so pretty. We took a boat trip along the little inlets and islands there that saw black bears and whales and bald eagles. And then we actually ended up in Vancouver. So we didn't get to the Canadian Rockies, but I'm sure the Rocky Mountaineer would be an amazing way to see it. Before I send it over to Stacy, I just wanted to let you all know that we have a giant virtual sidewalk sale and in-store sidewalk sale that we've got going on if you haven't seen our emails coming out about it. So I thought I'd take just a second, I promise, and I pulled a couple things from the sidewalk sale that I thought might be perfect if you were going on the Rocky Mountaineer or to the Canadian Rockies. So my first item, it's kind of hard to see because it's just black, but it's a rain jacket, and we've got a bunch of them on the sale by Marmot. I pulled this just because this is like my quintessential layer that I take for just about every trip. And Canada, obviously, you'll have temperature fluctuations. You'll be moving through different locations. So this is what I often talk about in our packing demos as like one of my basic things to take. I also grabbed just a good day bag. This is just one that we got in the sale by, I believe this is Bagoo, but we've got a lot of different ones. So I would say just a really good day bag that will get you on and off and trekking through places where you can shed your layers. You can have your camera, which will be essential, I'm sure, your chargers, your medication, your documents. And then the third item I picked kind of goes along the line of having your camera with you probably at all times. So I grabbed, they've got these charger organizers. This one in particular is not on the sale, but it is my favorite. So I thought I'd show it. It's just to have those things right handy. So, you know, if your camera is out of batteries, you can quickly grab it so you can easily take your photos. And then we do have a ton of zip pouches on the sale, and this one has lots of different slots for organization. So we're all about organization at Peace Frogs and making it easier for you to live out of your bags. And then the fourth item, if y'all haven't heard about it, packing cubes. Those are some of our favorites, and we have some that are gonna follow the sidewalk sale, which is actually it's gonna go on for a month. Forgot I didn't even tell you. And it's going to actually, the percentage will increase as you go on through the month. So you can get some really good deals. A lot of them are limited items, so they'll go fast. So it's kind of a gambler sale. So the longer you wait, the more likely it's going to be gone. But you can get some really good deals. So, so yeah, the packing cubes, if you haven't used them, really good for organizing your items. And great for just about any trip, but especially if you're moving locations along the way. That way you don't have to repack as often, and you can stay organized.
I want to thank you all so much for having me tonight and welcome me into your homes. And I know that, Rochelle and Lindsay had said, that we do provide these luxury vacations in the Canadian Rockies, and I thought it'd be kind of fun, since we're all being really, really good about practicing our social distancing, you know, a fun way to kind of explore the Canadian Rockies together. So outside of us doing these rail vacations through the Canadian Rockies, you know, you also might be wondering, and I know a lot of people ask me right off the bat, well, do I sleep on the train? And the answer is no. And there's really two reasons for this. First of all, we want to make sure that you do not miss out on any of that beautiful scenery as you're traveling throughout the Canadian Rockies. And what you're going to notice when you're traveling with us on the train, not a lot of roads. So we're giving you this exclusive access to not only see those gorgeous snow-capped mountains, but also some beautiful blue, green, turquoise lakes and rivers, some stunning waterfalls, and obviously that amazing wildlife. But the second reason why we don't have you sleep on the train, which is very near and dear to my heart, want to make sure that you sleep on a comfortable bed. So welcome aboard. I'm going to talk first about the train itself, which I lovingly call Rocky, and the stellar service that you're going to receive while you're traveling with us on the train. Most of your vacations are either going to start or end in Vancouver, British Columbia. We are a Canadian-based company. You may be asking, oh, Stacy, are you calling in from Canada? I live in Washington, D.C. So my joke is I live in D.C., not B.C. But we are still a family-owned company. We're privately held. And it's really rare in our industry to kind of have that. So we do a lot of things to bring you into the Rocky Mountaineer family when you're traveling with us. One of the things that we do is at the start of your vacation, if you're going to start in Vancouver, we are going to shuttle you from your hotel to our private train station. Now, we do include all transportation from the hotels to the train station. One of the things that we do to kind of kick things off the right way is we ask for volunteers of those who work in our headquarters in Vancouver, and we say, hey, who wants to sign up for the send-off? So people sign up, but we bus them really, really early to the train station so that when you get off the shuttle and you walk in, you're greeted by a lot of really happy people. And just know that these are volunteers of those who work in our headquarters. The gentleman here on the lower left-hand side, that's Steve Samet. He is our president and CEO. When he's in town, he's there participating and there to greet you as well. And then also Peter Armstrong, who is the owner and founder of Rocky Mountaineer. He's there at least once a month greeting all of you as well. When you're on the train, you're greeted by a lot more really happy people, and these are your hosts. And they wear a couple of different hats. So first of all, they're there to ensure that you're having the most fabulous vacation possible. But they're also there to provide commentary. Our trains travel fairly slow. We only operate anywhere from 28 to 38 miles an hour. So it's nice and slow. You're able to take in that beautiful scenery versus it just being a blur flying by. So being as such, they're there giving storytelling and giving like history behind what it is that you're seeing. But they're also excellent animal scouts. And I can't tell if you can tell by the picture, but James there in the middle is wearing an earbud. And all of the hosts talk to each other amongst the different rail cars. So when, for example, there's a bear sighting, I say, okay, we just heard that there's a family of bears up to the left. Everybody goes to the left. Oh, wait, we think we see moose to the right. Everybody goes to the right. It's very much of a social environment. We encourage you to get up, walk around, be social. We do not expect you to be sitting at your seats the entire time. All meals and drinks are included when you're traveling with us on the train, and our food is spectacular. Being Greek, I know a lot about food. All of our food is locally sourced. Everything is prepared fresh. If you have any dietary restrictions, just let one of the Peace Frogs travel consultants know so that our chefs can have a special meal prepared for you. We always include breakfast and lunch, gourmet snacks in between, and all of your beverages are included as well, and that's both alcoholic and non-alcoholic. And I say this, you're on vacation. If you like to have a little Bailey's in your coffee in the morning, it's absolutely okay. But my word of advice, do not bring snacks on the train. We are feeding you the entire time. When I would do these presentations in person, I would have a lot of people come up to me afterwards and say, you know what, Stacy, how do I work with the Peace Frogs travel consultants on how to figure out the perfect trip for me? So what I thought I would do is kind of break it down into 4 easy steps. So the first is choosing your rail service level. And what I mean by that, it's choosing what type of rail car you like to travel in, because we have 2. The next step is choosing your route. We have 3 routes that'll take you from Vancouver out to the Canadian Rockies. The next step is choosing your package. And what I mean by that, it's the sightseeing activities that you do once you're off the train, so that you can really get a sense for how fantastic some of these cities and towns are. And the last step is choosing your season. So I'm going to start with the first, which is choosing your rail service level. And we have 2 different rail cars in which you can travel with us. First is our Silverleaf rail car. Silverleaf, it's all one level, and there are these big wide windows so that you're able to take in that beautiful scenery. Your meals are plated at your seat. So you have a choice of 2 different hot entrees. There's a big tray that comes down, they put down the white tablecloth, and then you can get outside and take some of that fantastic air, like fresh air, and it's going to be in the vestibule. And what I mean by that, it's going to be the space in between the rail cars. Then we have our Gold Leaf rail car. This is 2 stories. So upstairs, it's all glass dome seating. Downstairs, it's a full service restaurant with an a la carte menu. You'll have up to 7 different entrees to pick and choose from. There is a spiral staircase from upstairs to downstairs, but there's also a lift. So if any of you have any limitations with taking stairs, absolutely not a problem. You can still travel on our Gold Leaf rail car. But what I really love about our Gold Leaf cars is that downstairs, there's a dedicated outdoor viewing platform. So you have space to get outside, walk around, take in that fantastic mountain crisp air, and take some amazing photos of outside the rail car. And this is where Lindsay's raincoat may come in good place, because you're gonna probably want some sort of added layer while you're out there traveling through the Canadian Rockies. Now, once you decide whether you're traveling in Silverleaf or Gold Leaf rail car, then it's time to decide where you're gonna sleep at night, because again, you're not sleeping on the train. And you have a choice. You can stay at our Gold Leaf or 5-star hotels. These are usually going to be the Fairmont properties that pretty much go hand in hand with the Canadian Rockies, like the stunning Chateau Lake Louise, or the photograph on your bottom right-hand side. It's the Fairmont Banff Springs, which everybody calls the castle in the mountains. But you can also stay in more modest hotels, and our Silverleaf hotels are right downtown. So you have everything within walking distance. To be honest with you, I don't think you can go wrong with any one of our hotels, but you can mix match. And what I mean by that, for example, you can travel on our Gold Leaf rail car, but then maybe stay in those more modest, centrally located hotels. The next step is choosing your rail route. And as I mentioned, we have 3 routes that'll take you from Vancouver out to the Canadian Rockies. So here on the map, all of our routes are color-coded. Now, a question I've received quite often is, well, Stacy, do we have to start in Vancouver? And you actually have a choice. If you're going to start your vacation in Vancouver, you're going to start on the train first on one of our routes that'll then take you to either Jasper, Lake Louise, or Banff. And at that point, you're going to get off the train and do your sightseeing activities while you're in the Canadian Rockies, and I'll talk about that next. But you can do this in the reverse. And what I mean by that is you can start your vacation in Calgary. And at that point, again, you're in Alberta and the Canadian Rockies. So you're going to start your vacation off the train first, doing those sightseeing activities. Then you'll hop on board one of our rail routes, relaxing, making your way back to Vancouver. So that's taking the train one way, but you can also take the train round trip as well. So I'm going to briefly talk about what makes each of these routes a little bit unique from one another. So first is our Rainforest to Gold Rush. This is our only 3-day route. So if you're wanting to take the train one way, but spend more time on the train, this would be a great option for you. And what I really love about our Rainforest to Gold Rush route, every single day the scenery is different. So if you're starting your vacation in Vancouver, you're going to travel along different bodies of water. You'll then be spending all day and night in Whistler, but the next day you're going to leave Whistler and it's very lush and green because there is a rainforest there. But as you start making your way up to Quesnel, this is part of the Gold Rush route, and the scenery changes dramatically. It's now more dry, arid, kind of desert-like, which is odd because you don't expect to see that in western part of Canada. But I love it because you're traveling along these different bridges, looking down into these stunning ravines. You're then going to overnight in Kamloops, and the next day, scenery changes dramatically again because now you're in the Canadian Rockies. And you're surrounded by those gorgeous mountains. And as you approach Jasper, you do come across Mount Robson, largest mountain peak in the Canadian Rockies. We have two-day routes. The first is our journey through the clouds. Now this route will also take you up to Jasper. And when you do, you come across that gorgeous mountain, Mount Robson. But the real highlight of our journey through the clouds is right after you leave the small town of Kamloops, you're going to come across Pyramid Falls. It is this stunning, gorgeous waterfall, and we come right at the base of the falls. Now again, we travel slow, around 28 to 38 miles an hour. However, when we come across these jaw-dropping types of scenery like Pyramid Falls, the train comes to what I like to call a Kodak crawl. You know, we travel maybe about 5-8 miles an hour, so you really can take in the roar of the falls, take some fabulous photos and not feel like you're going to miss out on anything. And the thing to note, the only people who get to see Pyramid Falls are those traveling on Rocky Mountaineer because it's not accessible by road. We have another 2-day route. This is our first passage to the west, and this actually happens to be one of our more popular routes. Now this route also overnights in the small town of Kamloops, but now it takes you through the most beautiful scenic route directly over to either Lake Louise or Banff. And the real highlight of our first passage to the west is as you're approaching Banff, you're going to travel through the spiral tunnels. So you're actually traveling in the Canadian mountains. Now they call it spiral tunnels, and you're probably thinking, is this like a corkscrew? Not quite. The best way I could describe it, think of an uppercase cursive L. So you're traveling in and out of the mountains at various degrees, and that's actually what helps control the speed of the train. And when you come out of the tunnels, the view is just, it's speechless. It's so beautiful, and I thought about adding a photo. It just doesn't do it justice, and I feel like at some point in this presentation, I need to give you some sort of element of surprise. Now, if you can't decide which one-way route you like to take, you can take what we call our circle journeys. And this is taking the train round trip. An example of one, which is one of my personal favorites, is the Grand Rail Circle. And that is, you'll start in Vancouver, taking our first passage to the west route. That's the route where you're going to travel through the spiral tunnels. And then you're going to get off the train in Banff. You'll spend 3 nights in Banff, 2 nights in Lake Louise, 2 nights in Jasper. So you'll be doing your sightseeing activities along the way. and then picking up our Rainforest to Gold Rush route, which is that 3-day route, making your way back to Vancouver. So that vacation package all in is 13 days, but we do have circle journeys with as few as 7 days. So if you're wanting to spend more time on the train and really wanting to see the Canadian Rockies and the topography from different points of view, you may want to consider one of our circle journeys. The next step is choosing your package. And what we've done is that we've put together these vacation packages coupled along with the routes so that you not only have that unique experience of traveling on the train, but we've also included these really unique sightseeing activities off the train so that you can get immersed in these fantastic cities and towns. So what I'm really talking about are sightseeing activities in and around Vancouver, Jasper, Lake Louise, Banff, and Calgary. Now there's 2 different ways that you can do your sightseeing. First, it's through a motor coach sightseeing tour. This is where you have a driver guide that's not only picking you up from point A to point B, but they're including sightseeing activities along the way. So if you've never been to the Canadian Rockies before, or you want a more guided vacation, this would be a great option for you. But we also have our self-drive program. And this is where the Peace Frogs travel consultant will book the hotels for you in advance. They'll book the rental car, and now you can explore on your own. You see this green dotted line here on the map connecting from Jasper down to Calgary? This is the Icefields Parkway. It's one of the most scenic parkways in the world. There's only one road. You cannot get lost. I mean, really, you can't get lost. So the self-drive is a great option for those of you who maybe want to travel at your own schedule. If you're into photography, into hiking, you may want to look into our self-drive program. So now I'm going to talk about the destinations and the sightseeing activities that you can do in these fantastic cities and towns. So first I'm going to talk about Vancouver. I know that Lindsay touched upon this. Vancouver, I think, is one of the most fabulous cities in all of North America. And I recommend, if you've never been to Vancouver, spend at least 2 to 3 nights there. We do have half-day sightseeing tours that include Stanley Park, which, by the way, even bigger than Central Park, but also a stop off at Granville Island, Gastown, Chinatown. But we also have full-day sightseeing tours that go a little further north in Vancouver to the Capilano Rainforest. And this is where you'll walk along a suspension bridge over to what they call the Treetop Adventure. And they have these bridges amongst all the different trees, so you'll feel like you're walking up in the treetops of the rainforest. Now we also have sightseeing tours where you can go over to Victoria for the day, but we also have packages as well where you can spend at least 2 nights on Victoria, and Lindsay talked about it. It is such a quaint seaside town, but we also include tickets to the Boot Shark Gardens. Absolutely stunning gardens, no matter what type of year that you're traveling over to Victoria. I'm now going to talk about some sightseeing activities that you can do while you're traveling in Alberta. So first there's Jasper. And Jasper is home to Jasper National Park. It's the largest national park in the Canadian Rockies. We have packages where you can have breakfast at a quaint bed and breakfast at Moline Canyon. We have half-day sightseeing tours. We also have full-day sightseeing tours. And if you're traveling during the summer season, that will include a 90-minute cruise on Moline Lake that takes you out to Spirit Island, where you will have the most stunning, beautiful views of not only that glacier-fed lake, but also those gorgeous mountains as well. And as I mentioned, that green dotted line on the map, the Icefields Parkway, it is one of the most scenic parkways in the world. And the reason being is not only are you surrounded by those gorgeous, rugged, snow-capped mountains. But there are also some amazing waterfalls along the way. One of my personal favorite, Athabasca Falls. You also have an opportunity to walk on a glacier. And Athabasca Glacier is one of the few glaciers in the world where it's actually accessible by road. And then there are the most beautiful blue-green glacier-fed lakes and rivers littered all along the parkway. One of my personal favorites is Moraine Lake. I took this picture in June of last year. It doesn't even do it justice to see that gorgeous blue-green lake with those gorgeous mountains in the background. But the most famous and most photographed lake in the world, Lake Louise. It's absolutely stunning. And if you're traveling there during the summertime, you can take a canoe and do a canoe on the lake. There is a trail alongside the lake, so you can take a nice leisurely stroll. For those of you that are a little bit more active hikers, there is a path that goes up the mountain. It's about 1.5 miles, 2 miles up. Tea house that gives you gorgeous aerial views of Lake Louise, or you can just relax at the chateau. And then there's Banff. And when I think of the Canadian Rockies, I think of Banff. So this is a picture of Banff Avenue, and our Silver Leaf, more modest hotels are all along Banff Avenue. Shops and restaurants all abound. Now, my word of advice, if you're going to do any shopping while you're out in Western Canada, do not do it in Vancouver. 12% sales tax. Banff, only 5%. So this is where you want to do your shopping. But outside of eating and shopping, there's a lot of other things to do. So the township of Banff sits in Banff National Park. What also sits in the town is that we'll include a gondola ride taking you up to Sulphur Mountain, where you will have the most fabulous 360-degree views of not only those gorgeous mountains, but the township of Banff as well. They have fire pits out there. In the summertime, they have music playing. It's just a wonderful experience, and I always say it's a must-do when you go out to Banff. Now, we could also include a 60-minute cruise on Lake Minnewanka. And Lake Minnewanka is home to a large family of bighorn sheep. Now, right outside of Banff National Park is Yoho National Park, home to the beautiful Emerald Lake. And then there's Calgary. Calgary is another great city. It's a city where if you're taking the train one way, it's either a place of entry or departure. Now, the first 2 weeks of July, Calgary is home to the Calgary Stampede. And if you're not familiar with it, just think the Super Bowl for all fairs and festivals. But in between Banff and Calgary is where we'll include a helicopter ride, giving you more stunning, unobstructed views and its very unique perspective of the Canadian Rockies. So these sightseeing activities that I've talked about are some of the activities that we include as part of the package. However, it's just giving you suggestions. So it's really worth your time to work with the Peace Frogs travel consultants, because they can talk to you about all the different options of things to do. So if you're wanting to have a more relaxed vacation, or if you're wanting to have a more active one, we have additional sightseeing activities. The helicopter ride we include in all of our one-way routes. However, if you don't want to do it, we take it out, it lowers the price. So again, these sightseeing activities we include in the package are just to give you examples of things to see and do while you're off the train. The last step is choosing your season. We only operate from mid-April to mid-October. You know, the first question everybody always asks me is, do I sleep on the train? And the answer is no. Second question I get every single time, well, when's the best time to go? And I don't think that there's a better time. I think it depends. What do you want to see or do when you're out in the Canadian Rockies? Spring is a fantastic time of year to travel if you're wanting to see snow. And for me, when I go out to the Canadian Rockies, I just find that the mountains are that much more magical when there's snow on them. Also in the spring, better opportunity to see wildlife from the train because all the animals, like those bears, coming out of hibernation. Summer is a wonderful time of year to go if you're wanting to do more activities outdoors. So days tend to be a little bit longer. Obviously, the weather tends to be a lot warmer. I would say usually around somewhere in the low to upper 70s. So if you're wanting to do more outdoor activities, this is where you'll see the wildlife more along that parkway than from the train. Now in the fall is another fantastic time of year to travel. And especially if you're traveling towards the end of September or early October, because you get that fall foliage in Vancouver, and Stanley Park is absolutely beautiful when you have all the different trees changing colors. But when you're traveling out in the Canadian Rockies, you get to have that snow on the mountains. Again, I don't think that there's a better time to travel. It just depends on what you like to see or do when you're out in the Canadian Rockies. Working with the Peace Frogs travel outfitters, travel consultants, they're fabulous, and I know that you all know this. But I think a big benefit to working with a travel agency is, first of all, they're local. You have these beautiful faces to go with the name, but they can also book your airfare, they can book your travel insurance, and like Lindsay said, they've got a fabulous sale going on, so Lindsay can help outfit you for your vacation out to the Canadian Rockies. So for that, one thing when you go to Banff, you gotta hug the Sasquatch. There is a huge Sasquatch there, so you gotta give them a big hug. But with that, I'll open it up to any questions. I do wanna thank you all for your time this evening. You know, Canadian Rockies, and I've been very fortunate that I've traveled pretty much to all continents. And I have to say the Canadian Rockies by far, one of the most beautiful places on earth. So I hope that see you all there next year.
I have one question. Are the Canadians letting Americans into their country yet?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Right now, yep. So they are still being very conservative.
Mm-hmm.
Canada's a really conservative country just altogether.
Right.
I think right now they are allowing their, the people within Canada are able to travel across provinces in Canada, which is a big next step. So we're hoping, and we've been keeping our eye on waiting for them to kind of open up their borders to us. I really think that, you know, with our numbers kind of getting lowered here, and I'm hoping that after the presidential election season that they'll be opening up their borders.
I hope so too, yeah. Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Stacy. That was great. I just want to say we did the Rocky Mountaineer I did it with my mother maybe 8 or 9 years ago, and it was amazing. It was wonderful. I loved it. So I had a bunch of postcards from my trip, and I've sent them to all my college friends just as sort of I'm just getting it in there as a possibility. So I just highly recommend it. It was a great trip.
Yeah, I've been on the train 6 times. Wasn't able to travel this year for obvious reasons. And every single time people ask me, and they go, "Don't you get bored?" And I'm like, never. And every single time I take at least 600 photos. So bring your cameras, bring lots of memory cards, because you're going to be taking hundreds and hundreds of photos. Jill, I saw that you had your hand up.
Yeah.
Yes.
I always thought that you slept on the train, so I'm just kind of uncertain about all the luggage transfers and all the things that, you know, you go on and off, and I don't know. I thought it would be an adventure to sleep on the train, but maybe I wouldn't feel that way after one night. But I know from experience that it's not a lot of fun to transfer places real often.
and we'll handle all that for you. So let me talk about how the luggage handling works. So let's say that you're going to start your vacation, for example, in Vancouver. We're going to ask you to leave your bags in the hotel room. We pick up your bags and we put them on a truck. The truck goes ahead of the train. So for example, let's say that you're overnighting in Kamloops. The host on board the train are going to give you your hotel keys on the train. We then will shuttle you to your hotel. You go straight up to your room and there's your luggage. So we'll handle that on the train portion. When you're off the train, and let's say in Alberta and the Canadian Rockies, that's where you're going to do the motor coach sightseeing tours. You just work with the people at the front desk because they have all the portage, because all your portage handling and fees are included in the price. So they'll then take your bags from the motor coach, bring them up to your room. So you don't need to necessarily worry about handling your bags and having to move it from here to there. We really make it very seamless for you. And when you're off the train and in the hotels, you can spend as many nights as you want in Jasper, Banff, Lake Louise. So if you want it to be a more leisurely vacation, I would definitely recommend spending at least 2 nights in each of those destinations so you don't feel like you're hopping around from day to day to day to day.
So you wouldn't leave anything on the train of your personal belongings?
The only thing you would bring, and Lindsay brought this up, that cute little backpack that she had, just bring a data pack on board the train with you, because all you're going to need when you're traveling with us on the train is your camera, the memory cards, your charger, because we do have outlets in all the cars. If you're going to travel on our Gold Leaf rail car with the outdoor viewing platform, I would say bring that jacket, maybe bring some sunglasses in case it's bright outside. Don't bring food. I'm not kidding you. We are feeding you the entire time. You will not be hungry. So just bringing a lightweight bag with you. There's no place to put luggage ahead because it's all glass seating. So a small bag, and actually, Lindsay, that bag is perfect because then you can just fit it right in the seat in front of you. You have plenty of space. My manager is 6'3". He's a big guy, plenty of space. I'm a photographer, so I have a bigger backpack with all of my camera equipment, and it fits perfectly seat in front of me. So I have plenty of room to walk around.
And
great question.
When I went, my mother was probably 90 years old at that point, and it was seamless. The luggage was always there. It worked wonderfully. And the food, she's absolutely right. The food is spectacular. And as are all the guides and the hosts on the train.
Stacy, how many people does the train carry?
So on our Silverleaf rail car, we have up to 58 guests. With our Gold Leaf, up to 68 guests. With our Silverleaf, that's where you're sitting at your seat. We have fewer guests because we want to make sure we're giving everybody plenty of room, because when they put the tray down, we don't want to feel like you're smashed in your seat. And we have 2 hosts per rail car. In Gold Leaf, we have more guests, but that's because we have the restaurant downstairs. So half of the time you're upstairs and you've got all that space to be able to walk around, and we have 4 hosts on our Gold Leaf rail car.
And how's the scenery from the restaurant? It looked like there were a lot fewer windows down there.
There's actually big windows from even downstairs, and the meal service in Gold Leaf, whether it's breakfast or lunch, is usually about an hour and a half long. We do break it up into 2 different seatings. So while the first people are downstairs eating, the people upstairs in that second seating are getting served scones and jam. So they eat before they eat. Like I said, there's a lot of food. But downstairs, we always recommend bring your camera downstairs as well, because you'll be taking fabulous views. It's just that it's just lower versus being up higher from the sitting part of the Gold Leaf rail car.
Thank you.
Stacy, a question from someone who couldn't make it tonight, but they'd asked about kids, not little kids, but like slightly older kids, like 10 or 12 years old, because it was grandparents thinking about traveling with their kids. So would gold leaf or silver leaf be better? I mean, how appropriate? Like the kids are pretty independent. So what do you think about that?
I think first thing to note, no Wi-Fi on the train. I think after all of us practicing social distancing, we're all going to be really ready to socialize with one another. And I think it'll be great that we get to power everything down. Now, when you're at the hotels, Wi-Fi is available, not a problem. So as long as the kids know that they're not going to have their gadgets and stuff and I mean, again, the scenery is great and our hosts are fantastic. I would say for little kids, probably not the best option because you're on the train anywhere from 8 to 12 hours. But I would say the gold leaf may be better because then they get to go outside on that viewing platform. So it just gives them a little bit more space to be outdoors, to walk around, versus in our silver leaf car, the outdoor area is a bit limiting because it's in that vestibule.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we don't see a lot of kids, I'll be honest. Again, on 6 times, usually they're like in their teens and I've seen 2. Oh, wait, Kristen, I think you're on mute.
I guess it would be good if I unmuted myself then. I have read about the Rocky Mountaineer and wondered how your guests respond to the fact that they have to get on the train very early in the morning each morning.
You know what? It's only for 2 mornings. So if you're starting in Vancouver, the train doesn't leave until 8. So we'll probably pick you up from the hotel. I think in the past, I don't know, it's like around 6:45, 7 o'clock in the morning. And then when you're, depending upon what overnight destination you're in, it could be 6:30 in the morning, but it's just that one morning. Because when you're off the train in the Rockies and you're doing, let's say, those motor coach sightseeing tours, they usually don't start until 9 o'clock in the morning. So it's a little bit later. Some of them are 10 o'clock. So usually everybody's fine because they're excited to get ready to get back on the train.
Plus, I just realized they don't have to get breakfast first because breakfast is on the train.
No, the hotels, and I've stayed at a lot of different hotels, they always have coffee in the morning for you, but I always wait because the coffee on the train is really delicious and I tend to be a coffee snob. So, but you can, but yeah, to your point, there's no need, you're not eating breakfast because we're serving to you on the train. And as soon as you're on the train, you know, the first thing they do, whether you're in Silverleaf or Gold Leaf, they make sure everybody has coffee or tea in their hands first thing in the morning, which is really important to us coffee drinkers. And the breakfast, the meal is soon after. So if you're in Gold Leaf, again, even if you're in that second seating, you're getting served the scones and jam. Mm-hmm. In Silverleaf, everybody's eating at the same time.
So what time would your luggage have to be out for that morning? That's an early departure.
That one, let me think about this. I know in Vancouver, we say leave them in the hotel, so you don't need to take your bags out early. In Kamloops, that one is earlier. So if you do the bag pull, I think it's usually about a half hour because these are small hotels. I always just bring mine down to the lobby just because I'm like, well, I'm a last minute person. So I kind of just bring it with me, but I think it's usually maybe about 30 minutes, 40 minutes in advance.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Another great question. So with that, I'll say, you know, if you do have any additional questions, again, you have the fabulous experts over there at Peace Frogs. You know, they've all been trained by me, so they're very, very familiar with the product. Again, I do think Rocky, it's one of the most unique and one of the most stunning vacations you'll ever take. So with that, I really appreciate you. I'm glad the power stayed on, so this is great. But thank you all so much for your time tonight. And stay safe, wear those masks, and hopefully we'll all be out of this soon.
Thank you, Stacy.
Very much, Stacy.
Thanks, everybody. Good to see you all.
Yep. Good night, everybody.
Bye.